Hey, Las Vegas, thanks for joining us back here on Vegas Realty Check, your local Las Vegas real estate news show. I'm Trish Williams.
And I'm Tiana Carroll. Welcome back, Vegas. And the world, right?
Yeah, and the world. And today we're going to have our special episode that we have every 2 months. And we have our coach with us, Sharon Swanton. This is our coaching corner where we're going to talk mindset. Sharon's with Affinity Solutions. And Sharon, before we get into real estate news and all the stuff that we start off with, you're offering a free consultation?
First consultation is free. No charge, no obligation. We just talk about whether or not what you want to accomplish fits with what I can provide and whether or not we want to go forward. So there's no charge for that at all.
Great.
What a great value.
Yeah, that is a wonderful value. That's a great thing. So you're going to listen to a lot of things from Sharon today, and Sharon has so much more knowledge for you. So check out that free consultation, contact her. And let's get into our numbers.
Hey, our numbers. So I am very pleased to report that we are up this week from last week. I think a whopping total of 48 extra houses this week versus last. So last week this week we have for our single family homes 3,461 homes available on the market, and that is up from last week.
Yes, our price reductions are up as well, though.
Yeah, our price reductions and our sales are down, so that could be it. But our price reductions did sort of pop up there.
Yeah, so they almost doubled. We have 93 price reductions. Last week we were in the 50s, so that's happening. And 465 sold, so that's slightly down.
That's slightly down because we were almost 600 last week that were sold.
Right, but we are mid-month. Just remember there that a lot of the closings happen end of month.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that just could be just one of those slow weeks. People didn't schedule them out that way. So not much going on there. Few news headlines. Median sales price right now in Las Vegas, $449,900.
Yep.
Average days on the market is 43.
That all indicates fast-moving market, people. If you're not tracking numbers and know what we're talking about, that means things are moving again.
Absolutely. There's under 7 weeks of inventory, so we're definitely seeing inventory keep on dropping, even though we got a couple more this week.
48 extra houses, but we also had less sales, so who knows if that's a contributing factor.
Yes, absolutely. Multiple offers are back. There's been multiple offers on houses again. I heard last week someone waived an appraisal, so we're doing that again.
Yeah, well, it's crazy, and it comes down to inventory, but we are seeing multiple offers, and I had clients contact me this morning, matter of fact, going, there's a house that came on today, we love it, but it's $15,000 more than we want to pay. You think they'll take it? And I'm like, day one in this market? No, I do not think that they're going to take that.
Yeah. I usually tell people it's got to be at least 30 days on the market before we start offering under.
Right.
And there's no guarantee that it'll stay 30 days on the market. So it's really a matter of how bad do you want this house or not. So, you could lose it by trying that route. Vegas news. This isn't really real estate news, but I'm excited about it. So let's talk.
Well, anything that the Valley grows is Vegas real estate news because it changes everything. It opens up jobs. It makes the city more appealing for people. So I think it is Vegas news and real estate news to some degree.
Right. So Area 15, not Area 51. We're not talking aliens here. We're talking Area 15.
Not aliens, just entertainment.
Right. The one that's right off the freeway over there. They just approved that they will be the future attraction of Universal Studios, which is going to be a year-round horror attraction.
Oh my God.
Right.
So all you people that love Halloween and wish it lasted all year long, your wishes just came true.
You do now have a new home to come to Vegas and get your scare on.
Yes, and I seen that article on a website called casino.org, but I also see it circulating in a lot of other places, so I would say it's legit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into our show, Sharon.
Okay. All right.
So today we're talking about what happens when you start to become successful and you stand in your own way.
Yeah, it's a really interesting phenomenon. I'm going to share today a couple of experiences I've had with actual coaching clients here in the last 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. So here's what happens. You have to remember the unconscious mind your worldview is formed between the ages of 4 and 7. And it's based on experiences you have and observations you make about the world around you. So at that age, you make decisions based on those observations and experiences, and that becomes your worldview. You then, around the age of 9 or 10, forget about it. It's called adolescent amnesia. That's what the psychologists call it. But it continues to operate. So as adults, it's still back there, and what it's doing is supporting those belief systems. So after my conversations last month or so, I began to liken it to like having a big mom who's trying to make what you think, how you think things ought to be, happen. All right? Well, if how you think things ought to be is wonderful and you're successful and you're making lots of money and you have a happy marriage and a wonderful family, great. But if your observations at that age were that you don't deserve those things and they're not going to happen to you and you're not smart enough and all the other negative
Programming.
points. Yes, programming, good word. Okay. So what happens is, and we have many examples, in fact, I have one in this room that I know of people who have overcome that programming, right?
Damn, you feel called out?
Sorry. I think you shared that before.
Yeah, she has.
Yeah,
She's very open and humble with her experience.
Okay, so what happens when you begin to have, not even high levels of sex, when you begin to have success, what happens is it's interfering with the worldview that says you're not going to. So it's disruptive. And so it isn't like you can't have it, or it isn't, you can, but you kind of have to learn to ignore that little voice that's telling you can't. So in the last month, I've had 2 clients who are making major career changes. So one of them is a guy who's never really made a lot of money, but he's also never really been broke. He's always managed to do okay, and he's making a major career move. And so he's sending out resumes, he's doing all the things you do to try to break into something new, right? And he's beginning to get some success. But here's what he tells me. It's really far away. And they're not going to pay me any kind of money. I don't know how I can live on the money they're going to pay me. I don't understand. He's got $90,000 in the bank. Okay, so it's not like it's going to be a matter of can I eat or not. It's not that.
Right.
But this is what I'm hearing. So as he's getting these appointments and going on these interviews, what I'm hearing are, and I really don't think the guy liked me. I don't think we clicked. And I think, what is that click thing? Okay, sometimes we click, sometimes we don't. Sometimes it doesn't matter, right? I have another client. This one was even more profound. This is a woman I've been working with. She's on the East Coast. She's made a major career move with a huge learning curve. Tremendous upside in her income. Tremendous. Just night and day from her previous job, right?
Nice. Good for her.
Yes. And she's doing a great job.
I love that.
She's doing a wonderful job. And she just recently qualified for what I consider to be a phenomenal bonus program, which is literally thousands of dollars a month. I mean, she's making more money than she's ever seen, right? She's divorced. She has 3 kids, 2 of whom are special needs. So she has a lot of pressure, on top of which she's in this very steep learning curve. So she's having to learn as she does this job. So she's working a zillion hours just trying to keep up with the appointments. She's getting appointments. People are loving her. It's all working. So here's what happens. She gets a phone call from an old boyfriend.
That story never goes well. When it starts with that.
Yeah.
And he says, well, let's just get together for coffee. I want to catch up with you, tell you what's been going on with me. Now, this is a boyfriend who's never made any money, lived with his mother. I mean, you name it.
Like, how do they smell the money on her? They're like, oh, you're successful. Let me go check you out.
Good question. Good question, Tiana. Good question. So she calls me up on one of our coaching calls, and she says, oh, by the way, so-and-so called me this week, and we had coffee. And immediately my radar is just like up, right? And I said, okay, tell me what happened. Say more about that, right?
Right.
So she says, well, he called me and he said he just wanted to catch up and let me know how things have changed in his life and just wanted to touch base. So I went and had coffee with him. I said, okay. So he told me that he filed bankruptcy. His mom went back to the country they came from, so she's not here anymore, so he's not living with her, he's living with his sister. So that's
Oh.
better, of course.
Yeah.
Hey, those are family values.
Step up. No curfew.
Look at you entering the best adult era you've lived so
Honestly.
far.
And he's been seeing a therapist, and he's changed. Now, understand, he's been seeing this therapist for 4 months. Nobody changes in 4 months.
I don't
You
even
can't
change
even-
in 4 years.
Well, my point, you can't even change the way you eat breakfast in 4 months. It's just not how it works, right? So the radar is just going off in my head, and I'm listening, and I said, what do you remember about this guy and what the relationship was? Do you remember what you were going through when you ended this relationship? Well, yeah, but he's changed. I said, no,
No.
he has not changed. And let me remind you, he cheated on you. He made you crazy. You were driving past his house, his mother's house, to see if his car was there. Well, we can all relate to this stuff.
Well, yeah, listen, we've all had our crazy moments, I'm sure.
We all have. Most of us got over it when we were about 18. But,
Right.
But still, and she's, believe me, beyond 18. So I started reminding her, and she went, oh, you're right. Oh, how could I have forgotten that? I said, your unconscious mind is how you forgot it, because what's happening is your life is working extremely well, and so here comes a saboteur.
Yeah.
And because your unconscious mind doesn't believe you're entitled to have a great job and be working things out with your kids, she's divorced, so her kids, it's an issue, and they live with their dad, which is fine, but there's issues she has to work through. And she's getting a little lonely because she's working all the time. So you don't have much life. You guys both know. You have no time for much of a social life when
yeah,
you're
know
working
that
18
well.
hours a day, right? Which she's doing right now.
Yeah.
And so she's feeling a little lonely. She's a little vulnerable. And at the end, she said, well, what do you think I should do? I said, I think you should tell him that now is just not the right time. And she said, oh, well, I can do that. And I thought, praise
goodness.
God, I mean, my Lord. So she did. I talked to her about, last week, I talked to her every week. And she said, I told him that I didn't think now was the right time, maybe at the end of the year. And I said, how did he react? She said, well, he didn't seem to care much. And I thought, yeah, that's exactly right. So our unconscious mind not only keeps us from being successful by telling us we can't do it, or we don't deserve it, or all the other self-talk, or it would be, well, you don't need to do that. I remember when I was new in real estate, because I decided I was going to be a farmer. I was going to knock on doors. My deal was I had to knock on 200 doors a month. And I always put it off until the last week of the month. So then I was knocking on 200 doors in a week, because
Right.
that was my commitment, right?
Yeah.
Okay?
Catch up.
And I didn't want to go, especially if it was raining. I didn't want to go. So, of course, that's this little...
Well, it's raining. And
Yeah.
you've got
Finding
things to
excuses.
do.
I could wait another week. I mean, all that stuff, right? And
Right.
but here's what I did to get past that. I said, okay, you don't have to go. You don't have to go, Sharon. But you got to get out your resume, and you got to go get a real job. And I went, no, I don't want to do that. I'd come out of corporate America. I didn't want to go back there. And so every time that stopped me. And I would go, okay, fine. And I would go get my stuff, and I would go knock on doors. So the unconscious mind, now, here's another thing that happens. When we first started working with the unconscious mind, when I was working with quantum, the guy that developed that training understood about negative or faulty unconscious assumptions. He knew that they were there, but we didn't know where they came from. There was not that much research at the time about how do you develop that. We could just see in people's behavior that there had to be an unconscious faulty assumption, or they wouldn't be behaving the way they were. So what we focused on was getting them to change their behavior. So we would say, okay, can you commit to doing this between now and the next time we get together? Until gradually what happens to your unconscious mind is that it is forced to abandon the negative assumption. It's forced to do that because it sees that what you're doing actually is working, and that how it thinks it's going to turn out is not how it's turning out. So eventually what happens is that it's forced to change its mind, and then it becomes an ally. So when you go from a period of, or come out of a very negative experience and experience success, and then go through the transition of being successful, once you're on the other side of that, then your unconscious mind is a big supporter. You can do this, you can do anything. You're smart, you can figure it out. Totally different messages, right?
Totally.
But you have to get through that transition. You have to get through that learning curve.
Yeah. This reminds me, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she, came from just a real not easy upbringing,
right.
And not an easy circumstance, but came wildly successful. She's kind of just went after what she wanted, made it happen. She's very successful, doing amazing, doing such a great job. And she told me, she said, we were talking just about, our past, or whatnot. And she said, do you ever wonder when it's all going to unravel?
There you
and
go.
I'm like, wow,
there you go.
And it's so true. It was like, yeah. That does happen often. But so sad that is, the mindset, that you're in at that point. And it's like, it's this constant stress.
It's very powerful. It's very powerful. And I'd love to tell you that it goes away, but I've worked with people for so long. It doesn't really go away. What happens is you get better at managing it. You get better at going, oh yeah, I know who you are. Get out of here.
Yeah.
I'm busy today. I don't have time for your nonsense. I would use a different word, but we're on the air. Okay.
We're on the internet. You can say whatever you want.
The internet's the Wild West. I love it. You can say what you want.
Truly, that's where you get to. But it doesn't ever completely go away. I had a coaching client once who told me that he got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, went downstairs, sat in the family room on the couch by himself, and was talking to himself out loud because all the negativity was up for him so big that it was the only way he could think to begin to manage it. And a few years later, when I was still working with him, he said, it's never really gone away, but it's never gotten that bad again. It's gotten now to the place where I can go, oh yeah, I know what that is. No, it's not true. Leave me alone. But it was a fairly difficult transition. So it's really, when I was talking to, the reason that the one client, and actually another story, called me on a weekend and said, listen, I'm really struggling. I need to talk to you. I said, okay, what's going on? He said, well, I'm very codependent in my relationships. And I said, I hate labels. Don't talk about that. Tell me what's going on. Well, it was my birthday a couple of days ago. My significant other wasn't feeling well and didn't want to go. And I thought I should stay home with her. And I realized that was crazy because she's a grown woman. She doesn't need a babysitter. She's perfectly fine. I mean, she can get something to eat and take care of herself while I'm gone for 2 hours, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking, I need to stay home and take care of her. And he said, this has been a theme in all of my relationships going back for as long as I can remember. The other thing is that I expect her to do the same thing. I expect her to make me the number one priority in her life. And he said, that doesn't work. He said, it destroyed my marriage. I said, yeah, it certainly would.
And it absolutely would.
Absolutely. And so I said, well, let's talk about where that came from. So I'm going to shorten it for you because it was a pretty long conversation. He is Jewish. He has a good Jewish mom. And guess what his Jewish mom thought her job was? Was to pay attention to him every waking minute of his life.
Yeah.
And so he was never he was never alone. He always, in the formative years, remember that's 4 to 7, right?
Right.
He was never, mom was right there paying attention to him. And so his reaction was, well, like that was a negative thing. I said, no. She was being a good mom.
Yeah.
By her definition, that's what loving you was all about. She was being a very good mom. It just created an expectation in you that people who love you are going to make you the number one priority in their life, which is not very realistic. And he went, oh, I got it. He said, so my unconscious mind isn't my enemy. I said, no. It's more like Supermom trying to take care of you and get you what it is you think you want. It's more like that.
Yeah, it's like trying to be protective, but it's walking around with an enemy.
Well, it feels like an enemy
Yeah.
because it feels like it's an obstacle and a barrier. But
Well,
if you
I guess enemy for some people. Some people don't have the same issues.
No, okay, that's true. Everybody has varying degrees.
Right.
And for some people, they got a lot of support. These are the kids who are allowed to color outside the lines. And I'm a little worried about what's going on right now because everybody's wonderful no matter what they do, and the participation trophies, and you don't have to work at anything. What kind of an expectation is that setting for these young adults who are then going to try to earn a living? Well, good luck with that. I mean, why would you?
I see a lot in the younger generation now where they just kind of want to, I'm going to do what makes me happy and work whenever I feel like working. And there is this.
Okay, you guys, to me that sounds perfect. I love that about this generation.
Perfect, but it is very tough to make a living that way. You have
But it depends upon your standard of living, right? Like when you're talking about your friend being successful and making more money than she's ever had, or the other client who is like, I still have 90,000. Your definition of what happiness is, what life is. Some people don't need all of the fancy schmancy or the vacations or whatever. They want to live on a farm and raise farm animals, or they want to make music in their studio and be perfectly happy living with roommates. So who are we to define what makes somebody else happy?
That's absolutely true. But a lot of the younger generation, when you talk to like the millennials, I'm not picking on millennials, but they want the brand new house. They want the brand new counters. They don't want, anything that's dated, but they also are not making the income to get what they want and not all of them. There's plenty of them that are successful, but there's a big group of them that they want everything, and they don't want anything old. They don't want, they want everything that's newer and updated, yet they're working 3 days a week.
So it's an expectations issue, right? So in my unconscious internal expectation is that if I want it, I'll have it, because that's what I was told. My mom told me when I was 4 and 5 that if I wanted it, I could have it. I'm really smart. I do everything perfectly. You're so good at this. Oh my gosh, you're so good at feeding yourself. That's so great, right? And equally mundane tasks that we would normally think are just about survival. Oh my gosh, you're just getting this huge emotional rush from that. So of course, when you go into life, that's your expectation, is that that's how it's going to work, that if you want it, it's going to come easy, and there's going to be somebody saying, oh yeah, you deserve that, and you're really good at what you do, and so therefore it's okay. And you're right, some people are okay living in a garage with 3 roommates. I mean, you're right, there are people like that. But there are a lot more people who really feel that they're entitled to the new car and the new house.
I think entitled is the key word there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, entitled. It's the they see sometimes there's people, and there's definitely, I see more people like this than I ever did in my lifetime.
Right.
Because when in our generation growing up, that was we were hustlers.
Yeah,
like we had no other option.
Right.
We had jobs before we were 16.
Yes.
We rode our bike to get
Correct.
places.
Right.
It was
I had a
different-
work permit before
Yeah.
I was 16. 15
Right.
and a half, I had my first job. But
Yeah.
that
I was working under the table.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
that was the way we grew up. And it's not there's no right or wrong here, but it's just a completely different mindset. But there's a lot more people these days. Again, when we grew up, we couldn't go on TikTok and you get paid somehow by having a viral video or whatever,
Right,
however all that stuff works. Like that was none of that was options.
Yeah.
Right.
So things were a lot different. But what we see now is this, it's kind of, it is more entitlement. Like if you have that, I should have that. But what they don't understand in a lot of cases is what goes behind having that. And that's the thing that I think that we failed to teach this generation is a lot of people that have success there's 18-hour days. There's a lot of hard work that you don't see behind the scenes. They didn't just get blessed with this, this money. There's some people out there that did, but a lot of people, there's a lot of hard work, a lot of grinding, a lot of effort, a lot of mental agony that goes into what they did. It doesn't come easy. So when these other people, it just, they don't know any better. They just look at it as like if they have that, I should have that. It's not understanding what was put into it.
Well, and sometimes it's that if you grew up with that and you lived in a nice house and your parents drove a nice car, then why shouldn't you? And you don't realize your parents spent 20 or 25 years earning those things. So then you have an expectation that's how it should work for you. So for some millennials, getting a job is a shock because, well, it is. It's a shock because there's an expectation that they have to do something in order to get paid, and what they're used to is showing up was enough.
Yeah.
And so I'm listening. I'm hearing on the news. The difficulty, for example, finding employees right now. In the job market, the difficulty finding employees.
I hear that all the time.
I do too. And please be kind to our employees that have shown up because
I love those signs.
We don't want to lose them.
we appreciate them so much, right?
Yeah.
Well, this really is so. When we were coming along, McDonald's was an entry-level job, not a career choice.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, a paper route was a beginning way to make money. Babysitting was a beginning way to make money, not a career choice.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a completely different set of expectations. So you get somebody who comes into, for example, real estate, and in our business, we make it look easy. Realtors have always been like good ice skaters. We make it look great and easy and effortless. You don't ever see us at the stage where our ankles are turning in and we're falling down every time we take a step. You don't see us at all the hard work that we went to make it look easy. So, and I've been coaching new agents for many, many years. And so they come into the business and they're just shocked that the idea that they have to, knock on doors. I'm just working with a couple of new ones now. I'd say, if you're going to have an open house, you need to go knock on at least 25 doors. Really? Well, who do you think is going to come to your open house? Well, if I put out signs. If you put out signs and somebody drives by and wants to come in, that'll work. But
how many of those are you going to get?
Well, exactly. And how many of them are going to be homeowners that you might be able to do business with? As opposed to, if you knock on some doors, you might find some people who are either renters or homeowners who you might be able to work with, right?
Yeah, there's a funny story I have about that I want to tell. I had at one time a few years ago, I was training a new agent, and we were at a listing appointment in a very large house, and just shadowing me, just follow me, see what I do, right? So we go through every room, taking notes, talking to the sellers, walking through every room of the house, everything around the backyard, all around the house. We go back to the office, and she had told my assistant, do you know she made me walk through that whole house? I was like, wow.
Made you walk through the whole house? Okay, just from that comment alone, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Oh, my word.
We're not calling people out here, but I was like, so how else would you list a house? Like, do you just think yes, that's part of, and yes, we wear our heels, it's never comfortable. It's part of what we do. That's what we do. It's what we have to do. It's what we need to do. But so many people, they think from the outside looking in, realtors, they just, I guess you get a license and someone dumps money in your driveway. I don't know how people think it works.
I did it wrong. Nobody dumped any money in my driveway.
And you drive around in your big cars and you go to lunch. That's what you do, right?
That's what people think realtors do. But it is. It's the door knocking. It's the cold calling. The other day I made 100 calls in one day.
Cold 100. What's up?
So that was a long day. I spent a lot of time on the phone. But it's there's a lot of work that goes into what we do.
Well, there's so many different hats in real estate, if I'm being honest.
That's correct.
Because you're a marketer, and then you're a salesperson, and then you're a emotional counselor, and you're an interior designer.
And there's a difference between being a listing agent and working with a buyer.
Exactly.
Two entirely different jobs.
Skill sets,
with
absolutely.
different skill sets, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to learn. And so we make it look easy, but the truth is it's not. It's like a good ice skater.
We make it look easy because we're good at it.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Because we have mental
That's
breakdowns
exactly
in
right.
private. No, I'm
Yes.
just kidding.
Well, for both of you, those are probably past tense. But if you think back to the beginning, having a mental breakdown was a pretty regular event because.
Oh, I called it the emotional roller coaster of real estate in the
Yeah.
beginning. I'm like,
Yeah.
what did I get into?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And what am I doing wrong and why isn't it working? And how come everybody doesn't like me and want to work with me? What? What
Yeah.
is that? I mean, really?
Yeah.
So we talk about rejection. Well, that's really where the rejection is. It's not the people saying, no, I won't list with you. It's the people you meet who don't like you.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to work with you, or they don't want to be your friend, or they don't want to, I mean, that's the rejection. It's not just losing a listing.
What about the people that don't list with you, but then they list with someone else and then start calling you
Oh,
for
yeah,
advice?
for help.
Because they don't like the way it's turning
Right,
out. I don't think they're
right.
marketing right. What do you think I should do? Hire a realtor that's better than that. That's
Sorry, I can't help you because you're
Yeah.
in contract with somebody else.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm like,
it's
I wish I could answer that question. I would know the answer to that question, but I'm not your realtor and you need to call them.
Yeah,
Right.
Like
yeah,
that.
exactly.
Yep,
That
that's
is
exactly
the
right.
worst.
When you do your coaching, I want to just circle back to how we started these conversations.
Okay.
When you do your coaching and you're having people who are now starting to see this success, and then their subconscious comes in and starts to derail them, like your client who
Right.
had the ex come around, and
Right.
at first she thought, "What's wrong with that?"
Yeah.
And then you realize, like, "Oh no, that was bad back then. It'll be bad now."
Right.
And now I've got children and money and things I can lose. Is it worth it? How do you start to get yourself back on track once you start to see broach that success and go
Okay,
like, okay,
it's a journey.
yes,
It's a journey. So the first thing that she did was exactly what I said. She said, now isn't the right time, maybe the end of the year. Now that gives us 6 months
Yeah.
to get ready to have some responses when that shows up again. And it gives us an opportunity to have a conversation on a weekly basis about what it was that she was attracted to. It sucked her in, it pulled her in. What was that about? And what is it that what is the internal space? So, it's not the right word. Yes, it is actually. In order for it to have the right people come into your life, I don't care if it's clients or it's significant others, you've got to create space in your life. That means if you're working with people who aren't going to buy, the ones who are, there's no room for them because all your time's taken up with the ones who aren't.
Right.
Same thing in personal relationships. If you want to have the right personal relationships, you've got to leave room. That means you've got to be alone for a little while. Because if it's taken up with all the wrong ones that you're driving past their house to see what they're doing at 2 in the morning, you don't have any energy for the right ones, and you don't recognize them when they come in because all of the drama and excitement is associated with this negative situation, right?
Yeah.
So what you have to do is you have to create space. So my focus with her is going to be helping her get comfortable with space, with having a little space in her life, with not having every minute filled up with somebody to go talk to or see or go out with, spending a little more time with her kids. She's got 2 special needs kids. Her kids require a lot of time. Making other relationships that are not romantic relationships, having friendships. She's saying, I think I need to have some women friends. She's a successful female. A lot of successful females don't have women friends. Why is that? What happens?
Because
Jealousy.
there's a lot of women that will push
Derail
you down
you.
before lifting you up.
That's correct.
Yes.
There's a lot of competition.
Yeah.
And that competitiveness is very unhealthy, but it shows up. So finding women that you can be affiliative with and who will support you and who will be friends with you, that can be challenging. The
Yeah.
farther up the ladder you go, the harder it is to find those people. So that's what we will be focusing on is what does it feel like to have space in your life, and is it okay that you don't have somebody paying attention to you or asking you out or telling you how wonderful you are? Is it okay to just, go to the gym?
I'm going to answer that for her. Yes, it is.
There you go.
And the more you do it, the more you realize how healthy it is and you enjoy it. Like sometimes I just need my space.
Yes.
I have
Absolutely.
great friends. I have great family. Like everybody in my life is in my life because they want to be there and I want them there. Carving out any energy suckers is key.
Great word, energy
Energy
suckers.
suckers,
You
yes.
know, just like time vampires. I mean,
Yeah.
you just have to watch out for those people because they don't mean any harm. They're
No.
not doing that
No,
to be
I
harmful.
know. I heard the term time vampire in the office and I was looking around and I'm like, wait a minute. I'm the time vampire. I'm the one who walks by and stops to talk to anybody and derails them from their task that they're doing and spends 15, 20 minutes BSing about whatever and then move on to the next office. Let me suck your time. Let me suck your time.
I lock my door when I'm in my office working. I lock
Yep.
the door. I know.
But they knock
Sometimes
on it.
people
They
come and
knock on it.
and I'm
It's
like,
me.
Yes, they
I
do.
always like tap on it and put my
They
head in.
knock
I'm
on
like,
it.
hey, what's up?
Yeah.
I'm doing this for a reason. I do not want to be distracted.
Yeah.
But I get it. Sharon, you're offering free consultations for people on the first consultation.
Yep.
So how do people get a hold of you?
You can contact me on the internet, sharon.swanton@yahoo.com, or at 702-289-1537.
Yeah.
Either one will work.
Yeah, and every situation is different. So just having
Everyone
that
is
free
different.
consultation, and
Yep.
you know, chances are in a consultation you're going to have an aha moment. You're going to bring something to light that they're not noticing.
Very likely. And if we can't work together, it'll show up in that first meeting. You know,
Yeah.
if they don't like me or I recognize that the problem is beyond the scope of what I know I can do, that'll show up in that first conversation.
Nice.
Right. So
Yeah.
you have nothing to lose, but a lot to gain. So I would definitely reach out to Sharon and talk to her about how to get started. Tiana, how do people get a hold of you to talk real estate?
Yeah, don't talk to me for coaching because I got the millennial mindset. I'm like, we showed up, everybody's happy, let's be successful. But if you want real estate advice and you want to get a house or something, then I am definitely a girl you can talk to. You can call me at 702-379-9948. And if I'm not the person that you feel comfortable talking to, and Trish absolutely is, then make sure you give her a call. How do they get a hold of you?
You can call me 702-308-2878. You could also email me, trish@trishwilliams.vegas, but you can call or text. That's probably the easiest way. And tune in here for our show. If you're watching our show, please like, comment, download, share, tell your friends about us. We are on everywhere that streams podcast. I haven't found anywhere where we're not at yet. So if there is somewhere out there that we need to be, let me know. And tune in every Thursday at 9:30 for our weekly show. Thank you for watching Vegas Realty Check.
Bye, Vegas. Have a great week.
Bye.